Hi, and welcome to this lecture on strings. In this lecture, we are going to learn about what strings are, printing, indexing and slicing them. We're going to learn about string properties, functionality and built-in methods, and string formatting. Okay, so let's go ahead by opening up our script editor, which I did by going down to Panels and Saved Layouts and Script Editor Perspective, which you can also do by clicking into the bottom right-hand icon, which opens up the script editor in a new window. Or you can do the same by going down into General Editors and clicking on the script editor next to the script editor icon again. Cool. Okay, we can clear the history at the top with this icon. And we can also make sure that we've got line numbers ticked on and show stack trace ticked on. Cool. So what are strings? So Python strings are a way of representing text in Python. They allow you to store and manipulate sequences of characters such as words, sentences, or even entire documents. They are surrounded by either single quotation marks or double quotation marks. So let's have a look. So hello, literally as simple as it sounds, it's just saying hello. But we can also use single quotation marks, as I said. Now, these are exactly the same. Python sees these as exactly the same. So don't worry if you think that that will change something when you store these as variables, because it won't. Okay, we can check that by doing the is equal to operator. And we'll see our result comes back as true. Let's make that a bit bigger. Okay. So strings can contain most character types such as spaces, numbers, special characters such as brackets or as like an exclamation mark. So they're basically the way that you take in most kind of information when you're writing a script. Okay. Or user input, I should say. So as a whole sentence, we can always just write something like, hello, I am a string. Exclamation mark. See, pretty straightforward. Copy that because I might use that again in a bit. All right, let's step forward. We're going to learn now about printing. Okay, so you can display what we've just done by encapsulating the whole thing within the print function. So let's open up our curly brackets. And we're going to go print. Okay, and we will select the whole item. Okay, and now I'm going to go Control and Enter. And you'll see we've got a command that we've printed out, or that we've just executed, and now we've got the print statement that we have just executed. Hello, I am a string. Nice and simple. All right, so we can also print strings with a line break. So that would be done like so. We can just put a simple backslash, N. This is called a little kind of a little string literal. So this is basically a string literal, and we've also included a next line in it. Now this is a special character essentially that is a backslash followed with an N, which then stands for new line. So if we print this, we get hello, I am a string, or hello. We've actually even got the little space there, so we can remove that if we needed to have everything on the beginning of the line. Print again, that statement, hello, I am a string. So we've got our little next line character here or symbol. Okay, all right. Well, we can also do some tabbing with this method. So if we wanted this to be a little bit indented, we could go T for tab. Execute this again. We can actually do, let's go, we've already tabbed in. We can go, hello, I am a string. So you'll see we've got a little default tab or a little default indentation here on the print, which is just given by our new line and our tab. So simple as that. Okay, we can also assign this string straight to a variable. So all we have to do, as we've seen before, is just put our string with an A and equal sign before it. So now got our string. Let's execute that. We've now got A equaling, hello, I am a string. So it's even taken into context these characters here. And it has given us our next line and our tab, but we can remove them, reassign array. And now we just have the string right there. So simple as we can now move forward in time and just put it straight easy. I mean, we've literally got our print statement printing a variable. Easy as that. Okay, so for multi-line strings, what do we need to do? Okay, let's say you want to write a huge amount of text to print out. You don't want to be like just putting it all on one line. That would just get frustrating very quickly. So what you can do is use triple quotation marks, which I know we talked about being used for comments, essentially, or documentation within scripts. But once we assign a variable to them, these now no longer become commented out or not executed by Python, but these are now actively executed by Python. So this is just a normal string now. Okay, but what we can do with the triple quotation marks is keep on pressing enter, and we can have multiple lines. So let's have a look. Let's execute this whole section. And we've got print A, and we've got hello, I am a string, and this is a multi-line comment. Okay, so, well, I should say string really, because we're going to get confused there. It's obviously not a comment, as we were talking about earlier. Sorry, but simple as that. So this is a multi-line string. Okay, so simple. All right, let's go into detail about indexing and slicing next, which again is going to be very similar to a lot of the items that we cover. Okay, this is not going to change too much. Okay, so like with other programming languages, strings are arrays. They're bytes of data. They're representing Unicode characters. Okay, however, Python does not have a character data type per se. A single character is simply a string with a length of 1. Okay, in Python. So let's get our little a equals again. We're going to assign this to hello world. Okay, so here's our new string. Let's copy that as well, because we're probably going to use this again. And we can actually print, okay, the first item within the index, which is h. Okay. So remember, we start counting in 0 in Python. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, if we want to go from -1, it jumps back to the end and goes here to the exclamation mark. Okay, so we can print 1, which will be the E. And then we can also go 7, which, how quick are you, will be the W. Okay, nice and simple. So that is indexing. Okay, so as we've said, 0 represents the H. Okay, and that's the first letter, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on and so on. Okay, just got to remember that within indexing. Okay, within Python types, 0 is always the beginning. Okay, let's have a little look at slicing. So let's slice this up. Okay, this will be, you'll find this very useful, and you'll end up doing this quite a lot when you're making pipelines. So we're going to go through this in a little bit of detail and just give you quite a few examples just so you fully understand this. But we can use the colon sign to carry out slicing. So this returns the part of the string specifically from the start index to the end index. So the start index being here, end index being after the colon. All right, so let's go from 3 to 6 here. So let's print, and we get low, comma. So we have got from 3, so we've got 0, 1, 2, 3. So if you see here, we're going now from the 0 position. So we're going from the position just in front of H, 0, 1, 2, 3, to 6, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so that gives us low. Okay, simple as that. And you'll notice that there is still no change to A. A is not changing from this. We are just printing out that section of A, or of the A variable. Okay, so we can slice from the beginning all the way to a certain point if we just leave the beginning empty. So this will take us all the way through to low and comma. Okay, sorry, I should make that more clear, to the low that we had sliced before. Okay, which is A, and we've left our start index empty, which gives us the default as the beginning. And then we can go all the way to the end. We can also do this the other way around and go from 3 all the way to the 6, to the end here. Okay, so we now get low and world. So we're now using that midpoint to go all the way through. Okay, we can also use negative indexing on to kind of iterate our way through, but we're going to use that with slicing now. So let's use negative indexing quickly. Let's go -2. So now we need to count back from -1, 2. So this will give us the D. But now we can use that in the same context with slicing, and we can go say 2 in for 3 in, being the second position, and to the second from the back, which will give us low will. Okay. All right. So now let's use that negative slicing to slice everything from the beginning to that position. Okay, so that's a negative slice to the end. So we just got to remember, it doesn't really matter what you put here. These are just the index points. Okay. These will only ever return what they can. All right, so this will either give us a start position going from 4, but if we type in a position that's, say, before that, it won't actually return anything. So you see it's actually empty, because obviously 42 goes so far back that it's now nothing. There's nothing in between that section. It will let us do it, but it isn't going to return us anything. Okay, but if we put a position where it is, that is there, and that we are then in between, we actually do get the information that's in between those points. Okay, we can do negative indexing on both sides as well, I should actually say. So we could do, we need to do it from a greater amount to the smaller amount, because obviously we're going 6 positions back now to 4 positions back. So let's go print, and we get, whoa, that is cool, and that is the appropriate noise to make with this. Sorry, I'm being sarcastic. I do have a bit of a deadpan for that kind of stuff. Okay, but you will find this amazingly useful in the future. Trust me, when you're going through huge amounts of objects that have been named in Maya, or you're iterating through certain items, as long as you've kept your naming conventions consistent, you will find this indexing method very useful when you're coming out to print out large amounts of information. Okay, so we can also iterate through these names and iterate through these strings by using 2 colons. So with the first 2 positions being the start and end positions, as we've just seen with the indexes, but the last position being the step or the direction of iteration. So what do I mean by steps? Let's just do this from 2 to -1, let's say, so we get most of it. And so it's make it really obvious. So we've got low world. Okay, now we're going to add in a colon, and we're going to go -1. So the default of this is 1. It'll always go through from the beginning to the end, one item after the other. But if we type in -1, we're now actually going through and reversing the string. Sorry, I should actually do it without the information in it. So here we go. So see, now we've actually got all of this information in there. Okay, we can iterate in steps of 2. And you see now we're getting the first, we're skipping one, we're going to the L, we're skipping another one, we're going to the O, we're skipping one, we're getting the blank, and then we keep on doing that all the way to the end. So that is iteration through and using all these really useful tools here. Okay, this will be very useful to you in the future when you're doing this with either strings or you're doing it with lists. Slicing and indexing is very similar. Okay, so let's imagine we have to do this in Maya. Let's say we have a list. Let's do something a bit more applicable to us. Okay, so a list, we haven't gone into these yet, but okay, as we've talked about in types and data types, these are signified with square brackets. Okay, so let's give ourselves a couple items. So once we go, we'll go with ball _1_geo. So let's hope that all of your modelers, and you should have essentially sanity checks for when they publish work, all are making sure that every one of the geos that they are outputting always has an uppercase geo at the end. If it doesn't, you should make sure they get an error before they try and publish any work. But then everything you do and you check, you should always make sure, again, it has this information. So let's print, let's go through this list and we'll do our list comprehension. We'll do a little loop, essentially. Let's do a simple loop, actually. Let's make this nice and easy for us. So for the item in geos, let's call this geos list, actually. Let's make this a little bit easier to understand. So let's go geos list, and this is a list of these two items. So we're going to iterate through each one of these items, assigning the variable to each one of these items as we go. So we're going to indent to 4 spaces, and we're going to print our item. Okay, let's go. Item, it looks Latin when you type it that way. Okay, simple as that. Let's execute. So you see what we've done? We've print out. Let's clean our output window. Okay, so we've got ball 1 and ball 1. Let's make that ball 2 to give us context. Here we go. Ball 1 and ball 2. Okay, great. So we now got all these items. Let's imagine we've got all these items from our geo group within Maya. What we might want to do is slice this item, okay, to the minus 4th position, and then print again. And look, we've got essentially the prefix of what we need to name anything. So we might want to make a joint. We might want to make a control for each one of these items. So we'll go controller equals item. Go for, but then we now want to do a little bit, okay, of magic and add a little bit more string to it and go underscore control. So we can iterate through each one of our geos. Oh, I haven't actually put a print, that would help. And when you see now we have got the naming ready for our control. So you see this is quite a nice easy way of giving us a section. This slice isn't giving us a nice perfect slice of the prefix that we need then to have a control named for us. Okay, it's a nice simple way of doing this. Okay, brilliant. So what we've done here is we've got our little colon. We've said we're going to go to the minus 4th item because we know that this is consistent. This name could be as long as we want, but because we know it's always suffixed with geo, it means we're going to kind of start counting from the back instead. We're not going to count from the beginning because it might be ball 1, 2, 3, 20, 25, 107. If we've got maybe a whole bunch of rocks we're auto rigging and we're putting in a rig for, we want to make sure that we know exactly what we're getting. But you see here, we're always getting geo now because we're counting backwards because we know what the suffix is here. Okay, great. So there's a little example. Let's have a little look now at string properties. Okay, we'll clear our output window. A property of strings is they are immutable. This means that once a string is made, the elements cannot be changed. So let's go ahead and recreate our hello world variable. Let's assign it to A. And now let's try and assign the first position of A using the index A. And the first position of that of the A variable, we're going to try now assign that to W. Can we do that? No, type error. A string object does not support item assignment. So no, we can't do that. Okay, that's what we just said. Okay, these are immutable. You cannot change them. But we can use other methodologies, as we've just seen above, or just before, just to change and update these strings. So what we can do is we can go A. We can use this little plus sign and we can add to this string. So hello world, I am concatenated. All right, easy, simple. And then we can quite easily assign that to the original variable. So below, we're going to go reassign it. And now A equals a concatenated variable. Here we go. Hello world, I'm concatenated. Simple. Okay, so using this operation, using the operation plus equals though might be a little bit easier. It kind of cleans up this. So what we can do, and what we'll talk about more, is this amazing operation here, which we looked at briefly in numbers, but you can also use in strings, is this plus equals concatenation. So we can go, let's create hello world again. It's reassigned. So A is clean again and it's just got hello world in it. We can now go A plus equals I am concatenated. God, Lord, sorry, my speech is going tonight. Oh, it's been a long day and I'm recording this after work. So I will make sure I try and speak clearly for you. All right, so there we go. Now let's go for our output. Let's go for print. A. Hello world, I am concatenated. Easy. Okay, sweet, fine. Simple as that. We can also do some little special things by multiplying strings. So we could also, let's keep this short. Let's reassign A. So let's do a string multiplication. So we can go times 3. And what this will do is print hello world, hello world, hello world. Simple as that, okay? This is going to be useful at some points for you, okay? I'll try and find some case examples in the future when we make some little scripts so we can go through this. But yeah, this is, it's going to be very useful to you. Okay, now let's move on to functionality and built-in methods. All right, let's clear our output window. We can use a function called length or len, open brackets, as we will look at here. So len, short for length. And this will check the length of a string for us and it'll output that length. So let's go with the hello world output again. All right, the result is 12. There are 12 characters in here, okay? All the way through. Brilliant. Okay. So we can also check if strings contain certain words. Oh, sorry, I should say you can also assign these to variables. Obviously, anything that you create in Python, you can basically assign to a variable. You can add it to a function, so everything becomes assignable. So here we go. All right, now. All right, let's create a string variable actually though here. And we're going to see if a string contains any words. So let's go with the way to get started. Now, I used to love phrases like this. I used to ice skate when I was a kid, and I remember having a Russian coach who said I could talk for England. And he used to just say, Nick, you've got to stop talking and get doing. He used to always say this to me because I used to be a little bit, I'd chat a lot, but I'd also be very analytical as a child. I would just try and talk about what I was doing and what could be wrong. And he used to tell me, sometimes that actually testing is far better than analyzing and actually get, and I know I definitely understand that in a lot of cases, it's obviously a lot better to actually get test data and input and get a feedback loop going rather than just talking about what you're doing. If you're always talking about it, you're not actually doing it and you'll never know. There's always those people that talk, but it's the people that do that actually achieve something. And that's what you're doing here, which is very commendable. And it's what I've done in the past. I've bought videos, I've learned. You've always got to start somewhere, trust me. Okay, so we've got this string. The way, I should put the best way really, shouldn't we? The best way to get started is to quit talking and get doing. Okay, so let's look and see, is get in our string? So let's have a look. String is not defined. Ooh, a lovely little simple error for us. Got to essentially assign the string, simple. And then you see, as I ran that, because we didn't have a print, it didn't print out what the information we needed there. So get is in string. So we are checking if get is within our string. It is. That's great. We've got a couple in there. Let's have a look. Will it be the same if we have an uppercase G? False. No, it won't, because this get is not in our sentence. Okay. We need a lowercase get to make sure it matches, okay? It is checking for case type as well, whether it's lower or upper. Okay, we can also check with strings to see if the string starts with a word. So we can say string starts with the. It's true, it does. It starts with the. Again, case is important. This wouldn't be true if we had a lowercase t. So what is this? This is a Boolean response we're getting here. Okay, it's pretty useful. Let's say we wanted to cycle through some items in Maya. We wanted to then check and say, well, if this item starts with this prefix, then we want to do an action. So we'll just, for the sake of this, we'll just say print true. Okay, so true. Okay, this wouldn't be printed if it wasn't true. Okay, simple as that. We can also check if the string ends with a word. So let's go with ends with. Okay, is this going to come up with true? No, it didn't print anything below, you see here, because this string, or sorry, this function is returning false. Okay, it does not end with it ends with an exclamation mark, which obviously doesn't have case, so it doesn't really, that does not matter with that. Okay, so we can also flip the use of this. Okay, and we can actually go. So let's say we want to print the string if a certain item is within that string. So let's look for brilliant not in string. So if brilliant is not in the string, then print the string. Well, brilliant's not in it, so we've printed the string. See the output here? That's only printed because the if statement has passed. Okay, so brilliant has returned true to us. Okay, so it's not in the string. It's very readable, Python. That's what's so nice about it. Okay, let's have a look at a few other built-in functions with the strings. So we've got string.upper, literally going to make everything uppercase, as you see here. Simple as that. We've got string.lower. Probably put this in a print, make it a little bit easier for us to look at. Okay, so this makes everything lower. Okay, we've got string.title, which will make everything have an uppercase at the beginning of each word, as it said. So it's good for a title. Essentially, if you're outputting a document or if you're creating PDFs or doing something, which trust me, you'll have to do at some point, excuse me, it's always good to have these kind of functionalities in there to automate the look of your document. Okay, you'll want to make PDFs at some point because you'll want to output, you know, the efficiency data or the test data or some kind of information from your pipeline. If you don't do that, and if you just let that stuff kind of go quiet, you don't know if everything's going to hell, essentially. So definitely recommend always learning all these little bits. Okay, so let's go for split. That's another function. So the default of split will just split everything based on the spacing. Okay, but you can also input what you would like to split with. So we can do get, and what this is going to do is return us a string with the splits at the points of the get. So we've still got the spaces, but you see we've removed all the gets, and we've actually got a list of all the items on either sides of the gets. Okay, so it's very useful if you wanted to, let's make our string equal something else. Let's go with bool again. So let's go bool _1, let's go geo. So let's execute, enter that. So we've got string, okay, we've got get. Okay, but let's say we wanted to split, okay, with _geo. What we get is a string, okay, with two items, but the first one being the prefix of what our object is, essentially, that we can then use for something else. And then obviously we can use indexing within this list, which we're going to go into later on. Don't worry if lists are confusing in a minute, and just get that item. So split returns you a default of a list, okay, just remember that. But it's a very useful thing when you're going through massive lists again. So let's actually go back and see, we'll get our sentence back. Okay, so now we can also do split with is2. You see we get a list with our two halves, okay, split from the middle. Okay, let's put some other characters. Is this still going to split? No, it's going to just return us a list with our one item in because it couldn't find any iterations of this. Okay. So let's use another cool built-in function there, which is find. We can go with 2. And that is said, well, 2 is actually at index 13. Okay, so if we counted in from 0 all the way through to 13, we would get to 2. And it's telling you where that is. We can count specific items. Okay, so if we want to say, how many gets are there? Which we've already talked about. There are 2 gets. Okay, or how many spaces are there, you know? 12. Okay. If you wanted to, if you say input a document, you want to find how many next lines there were, you can count how many next lines there are. Well, there's none in this because it's not a multi-line comment. Okay. We can see if this item can be changed into a digit. Doesn't take any input. Let's have a look. Is digit false? No, it can't be. So let's now assign string to a string item of 1, 2, 3. So is this a digit? True, it is. It's a digit. It can be used as a digit. It's great. Okay, but we can also search individual items. So let's say we go the best way. Let's actually just do this in a slightly easier place for me to find. Let's go 1, 2, 3. And now we'll go string. So string is this a digit? No. But let's index and get the first section of this string. We'll go, okay, second position, so 0, 1. We're going to say, is that a digit? Yes, it's true. So if you iterated through this, you could find all of the digits by just using this isDigit method. Okay. All right, it's a really useful little function. We can also use a great little function. So let's go for 12. Okay. What is that? That's a space. Of course it is. All right, so let's go for string 11. So we've just gone to the T. All right. Now we can go is lower. Which is true. Okay. So you have the same you have is upper. Again, a way for you to check through strings and check certain characters or characteristics of those strings. Okay, simple, nice and easy. Okay, let's try another string. Let's go for space, 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 Nick, space, space, space. Okay, it's my name, string, Nick. Okay, simple. Okay, but problem is, okay, and you do get this with a lot of websites actually. If you input your password, or if you input your email, sorry, and you put a space at the end, they'll say, oh, email not recognized. Still, a lot of websites are badly made like this because they don't have the functionality that actually checks if you've got a space in there, which a lot of websites and a lot of input methods, you will just get a space naturally. Okay, so what you can do with this is go string dot strip. Okay, and that will give you Nick. You see, with no spaces either side. Okay, if we just print string by itself, see, we get the spaces on either side. We've got those spaces being printed out. Now we can also do this from just the left or to the right. So let's put our strip back in. We can go left strip, print, and you see we haven't got any spaces at the beginning. We have got them at the end, so you can just right strip if you needed to, or left strip. And now you see we've got no spaces at the end, but we have got the spaces at the beginning. Okay, see, a lot of functionality with strings. These are amazing things. And I think these are the most common string methods you're going to use, but there are a lot more methods than the ones we covered here. So please maybe look at w3schools.com. They'll be brilliant at telling you a lot more methods than I've gone through. These are the ones, though, off the top of my head, that you are going to come across them most. So, okay, last item. Let's have a look at string formatting. Okay, probably one of the things that you're, again, going to come across the most as you're going through writing especially your starting scripts. Okay, what is string formatting? So, as we've learned in the variables chapter, we cannot combine strings or numbers, or even just recently, but we can use formatting methods to put strings, integers, floats together, as we're going to see. So the easiest easiest method to show is, let's go with a sentence. My name is Nick. I am from, okay, let's use this. So we're going to go dot format. No, we're going to go dot format. Okay, if I can spell properly. From London. So you see we've got a string here. We've got some open curly brackets. Okay, and we're going to go format and London. So we're inputting a string here into our string. Okay, let's see what it comes. So brilliant. There's our command, and here's our output. So brilliant. Okay, that is your first string format. This is the kind of common original way that Python does this. Okay, now let's use the format method to make something a little bit cleaner. Okay, let's say you're taking input from a user, okay, because you want to create a series of names of objects within a scene, okay, and then you want to name them within with the output, or you want to name them within the objects within a script. So we actually can name these, give these specific inputs here, okay, so place. Now we'll go name equals Nick. And place equals London. So let's see what we get from here. We get my name is Nick and I'm from London. So done the exact same thing, but you see we've actually given ourselves two placeholders that are named and very easy to read with the format name and place. So again, very nice and readable here. It's kind of why I prefer this to our method before, because again, you kind of have to read through this a little bit more of an eagle eye, and obviously after a long day of 8, 10 hours, 11, 12 hours, you will have some long days where your time is just required, and sadly you will be just making lots of silly mistakes. Obviously the optimum day programming, as Google stated, was 6 hours, because after that your mistakes increase and you're just going to burn out. The brain uses more calories than pretty much every other muscle in the body, I think, other than the glutes when you're running. But that is, you've got to try and keep that in context. Everything has got to be readable, and I can't stress enough that you will thank me for that one piece of information. If I could tell myself anything now that I was starting out with, it was make it readable. I worked with a few people that were very smart, and I don't think anyone had really like hit their heads against a wall and said, make it readable. Because as a new developer, they were brilliant at teaching me some really brilliant methods. But they also installed a very bad original kind of methodology with me, which was just kind of abbreviating names. And like I've talked to you about, it was a bad habit. And I had to really then kind of, after watching a lot of tutorials, teach myself out of it and say, yeah, I can't do this. Because, even now I look back at scripts from 8, 6, 7 years ago, they are terrible and I can't read them. But yeah, this will make your life easier. So, all right. So now let's assign some variables. Okay, let's go with greeting equals hello. Okay, we'll go with my name again equals Nick. And my place equals London. Okay, so, all right, what we're going to go with. So, as we've stated, we can already go with, my name is Slim Shady, but double, that's so much cooler, obviously. And I'm from, yeah, let's keep on doing it like this. Okay, so dot format. So you see what I mean about readability. Okay, this is great, but it's not as readable as having the names input within the string to kind of give us that extra readability is, as we showed before. Okay, so these are all going to print out fine because we've got everything in order here. So let's assign this. We haven't got a print, so we won't actually get the output. Let's highlight a specific line. We go, hello, my name is Nick and I'm from London. Okay, so that's great. That's fine. Okay, but we can, again, also do name. Sorry, what am I doing? Greeting. Name. Let's go for place. Now, will this work? No, we've got a key error. See, we haven't put these names in, so we can't do this unless, okay, unless we also actually assign the information. So let's go through this. So we've got our open brackets here, which allows us to indent, move to the next line for readability again. So we're going to go with greeting equals greeting. Again, I wouldn't suggest doing these matching names, but we're doing this for speed at the minute as well. But now let's go. Okay, that is run, but we need to print now to get everything out. Okay, let's encapsulate everything within our print function. We go, hello, my name is Nick and I'm from London. So simple. We've got our format, we've got our readable string, everything that's outputting through there. Okay, there's one method that I think you should know about. It's very commonly used, but I won't focus on too much. It's called percent formatting. This is possible within Python, and these start off okay, maybe for items with 1 or 2, but the parameters become harder to read as you get more and more. So I think I'll show you what you can do, but I'll just state that I'd heavily not advise doing it because it's not very readable. So we just do this percent and S for string. It's percent S for string. Okay, simple as this. So you need 3 of these because we're going to give 3 inputs. So, and then after the string, we go a little percent, keep our curly brackets, we can go greeting, we'll just keep our variables. Okay. And here we go. So you see we've got our variables encapsulated, ready to pass over to our string. This is percent formatting. Hello, my name is Nick, and this is great. But let's say we had every item in here starting to be a percent format. You see it becomes a little bit mental after a little bit hard to read. And this will just get frustrating because now you're like, okay, I need 1, 2, 3, I need 4, I need to do this, and then this and this. And then if you have to change it, it becomes awkward. So I just don't use this too much, okay? It'll annoy the next person that you're working with. Okay, so let's undo this. Let's go back to what we had before with our formats, with our variable names. Okay, let's assign this to a string. Another really useful way you can do this, you can define your default string. Okay, here with the information in. Oh, sorry, got a bracket at the end, so syntax error. That was my error. Okay, Python can't understand what I'm trying to do with it. Okay, but now what we can do is we can go print, open our brackets. Okay, we can go string dot format, open up our brackets, and then go greeting, name, and place. Or can we? No, we can't, because what do we need? The variables. So we could do it if we deleted these items, because then it doesn't matter. No, it's printed, it's fine, cool. But let's say we put these back in. Okay, we now need the variable name specifically, because that is what these are being assigned to. We are searching specifically for these items. Stop trying to copy and paste, I'm just getting caught up over my own fingers here. Okay, and you see, hi, my name is Nick, I'm from London. Brilliant. Okay, so that's straightforward. Now, let's talk about the coolest of all the string formatting features added with Python 3. It is called an f-string. So it is the coolest by far. And now, by putting in that one little letter, making this an f-string, so we've put an f, okay, and this has created an f-string for us, okay? Which means, essentially, this string is going to pick up all of these variables, anything within curly brackets. So we don't now need to do all of this formatting. We can remove that. And I'd say this is a lot more readable. We've got our greeting, we've got all of our variables, and now we're literally just putting them into the string, encapsulating them with curly brackets, and we've got this. Hi, my name is Nick, and I'm from London. So you see, f-strings, definitely the best way to go, best for readability, best for speed, comprehension, everything, okay? Use f-strings, they're brilliant. So let's put this into context. Let's go with a Maya kind of context. So let's go with object name equals, let's say we've got a huge amount of names we've got to get through. Let's go with object name is sphere. Let's go with got different suffixes, but we're going to go with, we're finding what type it is. We can reference that to a dictionary. Let's go with the object type is geo. Okay, you could even give this to a tool, to all of your to all of the modelers you're working with, and then we will cycle through and we'll go, our control name is going to be f-string, So F, open up the brackets, copy our name in, put a little underscore to separate, and then object type. Okay, so now we've executed all that. What have we got? Got large sphere geo. Simple. Okay, again, readability is key, and this is the most readable way you're going to get to work. So that's everything. Okay, amazing. I'm sorry. I hope I haven't bored you too much with that. I know that was a long video, but strings are very complex, but they are very powerful. So, okay, have fun with them. Mess around with them. Yeah, they'll become second nature in no time because you'll be using them all the time. Trust me. Okay. Especially in Maya with the scripts you write, it's always about getting the right names of the right items, okay, even for what we're doing here, although we will simplify that a lot. So, okay, brilliant. So in this video, we have learned about what strings are, printing, indexing, slicing, string properties, functionality and built-in methods, and string formatting. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to seeing you on our next video.